Hi, Kristin Snowden.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Kristin Snowden. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist in the state of California and a certified life coach. And these videos, like all of them, are focused in on just the multiple facets of things that we struggle with when we're trying to have relationships with others, when we are trying to be in connection, and all the things we struggle with, from shame to addiction issues to trauma. And this month, or I'm sorry, this year, we've kind of been trying to go on a theme based on a book that I just released, which is kind of exploring the 12 steps. So that's the 12 steps that was originally created in Alcoholics Anonymous, but has now spread to nearly 100 fellowships to help people get through different issues and struggles like emotional stability, eating issues, working issues, spending issues, etc. And it's just kind of a book that is written by both an addict and a non-addict, saying this is kind of how I viewed and approached the 12 steps. This is what it meant to me, how it was applied. So we talked last month about step one, about the fact that we have to, before we can kind of go down any path towards change, we have to have a moment of acknowledging what's not working for us. Change what? In order to change something, you have to own it, be aware of it, kind of figure out and start beginning to scrape through the origins of how that problem came to be. And so we discussed that in step one. And the important part is, since we're talking about non-addicts, and I'm also in a webinar where a lot of you are betrayed partners, there's an emphasis on the fact that even though you might have not created the chaos, even though this was something that you didn't ask for or sign up for, it's still, you can still sit back and figure out what elements of it are not working for you, and how you want to start moving down a path in a way that's going to be healthy and healing for you, because you're not going to be able to change the behaviors of your loved ones and the people around you. And we're certainly not going to be able to change this crazy, crazy world that we live in, where we're needing to ebb and flow and bob and weave between all the madness that's being served up to us on a daily basis. So with that said, let's talk about step two. So step two, and again, this is based on the Alcoholics Anonymous 12-step program, but it can kind of be applied to basically everything, is that we came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. So as I've mentioned before, I've noticed since I've released this book, there's a lot of misunderstanding, misinformation around 12 steps. The most common thing is that people say that this is a religious type of entity and structure, but it's really not. They use a power greater than ourselves on purpose, because there's lots of emphasis in things in the book, and including like, this is the Al-Anon book, that's basically saying it's not that you need to suddenly wake up and believe in this God and this deity, like especially if you've lived agnostically or as an atheist for most of your life, that you're not going to be able to move on to a level of greater balance, recovery, relationships without believing in a specific God. It's just saying that it's a very natural step, that if in step one, we need to kind of tap out, raise the white flag, and say, my best thinking isn't working. I've tried and tried and tried, and things aren't coming together in the way that I need to restore my sanity. Because remember, insanity is trying to do the same thing over and over and over and over again, but expecting different results. So it's the invitation to say, okay, I don't have to do this alone. My best thinking got me here, even if it wasn't something that I chose, but it has been placed on in my life, and it is something that I now have to deal with. And it is, the step two is a very obvious second next step, that if I've owned something doesn't work for me, and that my best thinking and my best efforts have contributed to this current state of life that I've been in, then you have to ask for help. Last webinar I was talking about that you never know that you need a larger source or a greater source until that source within yourself has been completely depleted. And so that's just kind of what it basically is saying. It's not saying run to church, start praying, all these kind of behaviors. It's just saying we need to start asking for help. And Al-Anon, it's saying initially maybe that needs to be that support group, right? That it's just you need a collection, a collective wisdom kind of, I need to share my story with a couple people. My best thinking, maybe I'm too close to the problem. And so I need to share it with a couple other people to see what are they thinking, what's coming up for them, what has their history shown them, what has their experience shown them, that just I don't always come up with the best idea and I need to engage others and maybe a higher power. Look, if you already have a religious practice, if you already practice and find comfort in prayer, in going to a religious entity, then by all means, that can be a great source as well. Because what is that essentially? That's saying, look, I'm not the one in control here. Maybe there's this higher power that is the one in control, or at least can comfort and love me in spite of how flawed this situation gets, how many times I screw up, how many times I'm hurt or rejected or feel abandoned. And maybe this source, this love can give me enough to just get me through this, can walk next to me to get me through this. So something that I say in this book that I think is a really interesting thing for you to explore is I talk about what we call traits and talents. Now, this could be put in the step 5 and step 6 area, but really what this is that when our resources are depleted, so when life happens at us and to us and we feel out of control, right? We feel that raw, kind of blindsided slap of vulnerability that I'm not the one in control. Our most common next step is to turn to what I call like our traits and talents. So we're these highly adaptive creatures, and it's really phenomenal when you look at all of us. And from the time that we're born, we learn quickly from the feedback of the people around us to the culture and the messages that it gives us. And we start adapting who we are, what we want to show up as, and what we withhold in order to kind of show up in this world, right? So we start getting this formula. So, for instance, if let's say my marriage starts going south and things start falling apart around me, I don't have control to fix what my husband wants. I will find usually that I have this go to list of traits and talents, things that I've learned over my 40 years on this earth, saying, this might be a hot mess for you, but there's all these collective behaviors and outlets that you go to get your validation when you can't get this one particular thing. So let's stick with my example. So my traits and talents were maybe that I was reinforced for being attractive. So maybe play up my looks. And it's like, okay, if I can't fix this problem with my husband, then maybe I'll dress a certain way, look a certain way to get feedback and have that void filled within me by other people telling me that I'm attractive or good enough. Or if I learned that I was good at my job or I was good at kind of performing in certain ways, then I would rev up that side of my life because it really honestly, it just cloaks me and blankets me from having to deal with the problems at hand. It kind of extends out that pain a little bit more. Quite frankly, it's also a way that we numb or distract from the main issue. So for other people, the traits and talents might be drinking alcohol or sexually acting out. It's like, I am empty inside, but I don't want to take the time to figure out why I'm empty, why this life's not working for me. And in fact, I've often just turned the spigot of emotion off entirely. So I don't even fully acknowledge what's going on inside me, but I know what makes me feel alive just for 3 seconds. And I'm going to keep going to those things that I know how to execute beautifully. Um, Something that's coming to mind is, again, I might have given this example. I worked at a psychiatric hospital, and a lot of the females, not they're males too, but a lot of the young girls were had eating disorders, and they talked about the eating disorder as if it was like a boyfriend. Their faces lit up when they talked about it. Even though they were 20 pounds underweight, they were having heart problems and physical consequences. They were in a freaking locked psychiatric unit because they were so close to being suicidal or a danger to themselves. But yet they loved it. It was theirs. It was with the little tiny piece of control that they felt like they could assert in a world where they felt like there was no control. That's kind of what I mean by traits and talents. They don't all have to be destructive. They can initially be, I'm just going to be great at working out, and I'm going to do fitness, and I'm going to do health, or I'm going to do generosity to other people. But when they're not done with boundaries, and they're not also done simultaneously with you doing the work of figuring out what's not working for you, and where it came from, and fully processing and assessing all that stuff internally inside you, those traits and talents can just kind of be this facade cloak, a defense mechanism, so to speak, to just keep you getting through the day. And so, like for instance, I work at a high-end treatment center where there's a lot of wealthy people. It takes a lot of, I guess, destruction and time to get these people into treatment, for them to wave their hands and say, I need help. My life's not working for me, because they have so many external things to draw from, right? They're never going to be, it's Rob used to say this to me, you're never going to be the homeless guy under the freeway. You have too much money, too much access, too many yes men around you, that it's never going to be that kind of rock bottom that's going to make you want to start step one and acknowledge that you're powerless and that you need to ask for help. And so it's really interesting to explore that kind of thing. So I have a couple exercises in here where we talk about exploring what your traits and talents are. So let me just share some questions for you guys to ask yourself. So if you're wondering about what these traits and talents are, and if you're wondering how you might use them kind of as like a warm blanket of stopping you from doing that deep internal work, that really uncomfortable, raw stuff about issues around shame and vulnerability and rejection and not feeling enough, and your trauma history and all these other issues, let's explore. These are often things, your traits and talents are often things that you, when you look back as a child or growing up, they're what you usually got the most attention for. So you look back at your family system, or when you showed up as a school age child, and think about it. When did I get most attention? And again, it doesn't always have to be positive. It could be I got attention for being the rebel. My sister or my brother was Mr. or Miss Perfect, so I found my place in the family system or around my friends by being the rule breaker and the one who would go out and do different crazy things, or I was the really serious, unemotional one, or I was the sarcastic class clown one, because those might all be signs that you might not be managing what's going on underneath. Is when you can continuously and consistently go to these types of behaviors that you got reinforced to be growing up. That might be a little bit of a red flag that's like, okay, what's going on here? You're really trying to outperform your shame. You're trying to maybe even being emotionless or isolate or pull back. That might have been something you got reinforced to be. I remember some clients would say, my sister or my brother or other people around me were so emotional. My mom was so emotionally erratic that I got attention for being the easy one, the one who didn't ask for anything, the one who didn't emote, who was just like kind of that kid. And so, do you find yourself going to that during this crisis instead of getting emotional, instead of asking for help, instead of getting your needs met? So, that's a really great exercise to be doing, because they kind of give you this false sense that things are working for you, that you haven't become powerless, or that life hasn't become unmanageable. So, it's a really great way to kind of test, am I in a true mental health, mentally stable state, or am I just drawing from these kind of traits and talents as resources to make me look like I've got my stuff together? So for instance, the other thing I'm going to close with is this concept of behavioral changes versus soul changes. So step one, we acknowledge that things aren't working for us. And from then on, for the rest of the 12 steps, you have kind of two choices. You can kind of just check things off the box and be like, okay, well, if drinking's not working for me, I'm going to just stop drinking. Or if, I'm screaming at my children too much, and I feel bad for that, I'm just going to stop screaming at them. Um, that's different. Behavioral changes will are usually short-lived and don't tend to work. What 12 steps and what I'm going for you is what we call true soul changes, or what I call that is this true conceptual. I see the world from a different framework. I see myself in these relationships in it from a different framework. I have a whole new set of skills and tools and understanding to draw from when I am faced with adversity and chaos. Those are soul changes. And so to give you an example is in the recovery world, there's a concept called white knuckling it. So there are people that when they are first trying to get sober, they know like these very specific behaviors aren't working for them. So, okay, I'll have to stop watching pornography. Okay, I'm going to have to stop gambling. I'm going to stop drinking. No more online shopping, whatever. These are just things that aren't working. Okay, so fine. But it's not, we don't meet it with a level of powerlessness, right? We just go, oh, I know how to deal with this problem. I'm going to control it. I'm going to assert my will over it by creating my definition of how to fix it. And so it's white knuckling because there's actually no internal change going on within them, no soul change. It's just a behavioral change. And also in the recovery world, there's this concept called dry drunks, that it's, I stopped drinking, so I stopped the behavior, but I've never stopped to do the uncomfortable and challenging work of figuring out where it all came from to begin with. Doing that step 4 inventory of your good, bad, light, dark, working on your shame resiliency, seeking out connection and intimacy with other people instead of that alcohol. So the idea is that if you just make behavioral changes, you're going to still try to be asserting, that's you asserting your control in it, saying, I'm just going to do this or not do this. The reason why there has to be this step 2 and 3 of accepting that we need to go to a higher power, go to this greater resource for help, is it's this practice of you trying to own that you're not in control and you need to seek out help and break out of those leaning into your traits and talents, leaning into this idea that you have control, and instead trying to break free from the habits that go with that, which is, okay, well, because I'm in control, I need this very particular outcome. I need this specific outcome. So I'm going to manipulate the situation to get this specific outcome. So I'm going to stop drinking, and then that's going to make my wife happy, and then, or husband happy, and then everything's going to get better again. But then you'll start becoming manipulative as a consequence of that because you haven't let go of the control of that. And so those, hopefully that makes sense about the difference is that there's this idea that something's not working for me, and so I'm going to try to control it and create this grocery list of behavioral changes that I need to engage in to make my loved ones happy or to avoid consequences, or because I've just determined on my own in my own head that this is what's going to solve the problem, versus the humbling surrendering effect of saying, my best thinking isn't working. I'm raising my hand up saying, I need help. And then the really scary thing of me actually accepting the input of the therapists around me, or the support groups around me, or the other people around me, to find out, okay, these are things that I need to start engaging in and things I need to begin to explore to start getting to those soul changes where it gets deeper than my behavior and it changes the way I think and see and exist and engage with other people. And I think as you work the 12 steps, that's really what it's getting you to, is moving from behavior changes to changing your entire soul and being, so you see and act and engage and exist differently. And that is step 2.
I took a whole bunch of notes, and I want to take a pause here. For those of you joining us, thank you. in the Q&A at the bottom of the screen, if you have any questions on step 2 or any of these topics, please put them in the Q&A. But you said outperform your shame, and I thought, wow, that's a really powerful thought, because I am very task oriented,
Mhm.
and you know if I've accomplished a lot in a day, even to this day, like, that makes me feel good. And if I have a whole bunch of things left undone on my list, then then I may have some self-doubt. And so I thought, there's still outperforming shame there. And the eating disorder example that you used, I so understand that. The trying to control so much. But in my management of things, I know when I go clean and organize a kitchen drawer, I'm trying to create order out of chaos. So if my whole world is in chaos, I'm trying in a very small way to, during COVID, my sock drawer is, I mean, like, the drawers are all looking much better. This
Right.
weekend I was like, oh, I haven't gone through my workout clothes. So, like, yeah, I weeded through all those, have a big bag to donate again, but I was like, I know exactly what it is. And, but it's a, pretty benign way. And I understand that, cleaning and organizing is, just taking a moment to do that. When you're talking about a higher power, like, I mean, addicts do get really caught up on, it's a religious program or whatever. I remind them that your addiction is your higher power. You
Right.
will do
Exactly.
anything that your addiction requires to continue to do your addiction. So,
Yeah.
so
Despite
if
your
you
will to live, despite your desire to keep your job, despite your desire to keep your loved ones in your life. Yeah, if
Yep.
that's not a higher power, I don't know what is.
Yes. So you have one. It's just shifting it to a different means. For those of you joining it, I'm thrilled you're here. I've had more messages in the last week of people going, I don't want to do a group thing. And I was like, that, I push back on every single person, because I'm like, that's how we know that we're not all alone in this. There are other people who have
Right.
walked these paths, and some of them are in the same place as us, and we can be supportive of each other, and others are ahead of us and can go, you can do it, come, I can show you how. So it really does take, us working in community and be willing to be vulnerable, to go, I've got this issue, or my partner has, I'm lost, I'm struggling, you know but there isn't, I mean, I know partners get all caught up in the shame of their addict being addicted, and I'm
Right.
like, it's and I know it feels real, but it's not your shame. That person is struggling, that person is broken. You love someone who's broken, and please know that there is support, and you joining these groups, is an amazing thing. So,
Can
um
I say
go
something
ahead,
about that?
please.
Because it made
Yeah.
me remember. So recently I was doing some classes with a few of these women who do, I think it was a program called Betrayal Beyond. I think it's a religious based betrayed
Okay.
partners group. But my point of that is that I watch these women hold each other's hands. I watch them
Oh.
almost make jokes about how chaotic their past couple years of their life have been. Specifically, I was talking about secure attachment. So if you guys watched my videos before, I've talked about what kind of clinically and scientifically are secure type of behaviors that you can engage in to start experiencing healthy intimacy and kind of repairing what we call these attachment wounds. And the women were saying kind of what I thought and hoped they would say, which is, well, we're not ready to do it with our partners who are still working their recovery, but we have each other. And is that enough? And I was just like, that's exactly the purpose of these groups, in my opinion. Yes, to educate, yes, to help you make healthy decisions, yes, to give you kind of containment in a place where you can safely share your story. But this, like, you are so shame filled, you are so traumatized that these are relational traumas and they can only be healed in other relational dynamics. There's no way that on my own, if I felt so traumatized and rejected and beaten down by a loved one or betrayed by him or her, could I repair that on my own? It is not possible. The only way those trauma wounds can be repaired are through relationships with either that person, which is sometimes not possible, or these other people. That is what these groups are for. And I watched, and it was just beautiful to watch these women lean into each other when their partners weren't safe enough to lean into. And that's all I wanted to add.
No, I love that, and you talked about laughing about the stuff that we share in a 12-step meeting, and we're laughing about it, and it's like no one else gets it. We all do. It's like, oh
Right.
my gosh, what a stupid thing to do, but like we're
Right.
laughing about. But it got us to the place where we're willing to admit we have a problem. I've also had a number of people. It's funny. It's like this last week, a lot of people have been going, I want to conquer this, and I want to get this addiction stuff behind me and all that. And I'm like, I'm sorry, but you will never conquer addiction. It will always be there.
Right.
You only can do what you do on a daily basis to keep it at bay. But you can, I mean, that's how we do this. So, it's a journey. It will forever be part of our story, and honestly, at this, I'm grateful for that, because otherwise, the insanity of the stuff I was doing, I'm just, I should be locked up. I mean, it was like, why would you keep doing the stupid things that you're doing that are hurtful to yourself and everyone else? Like you were talking about with the eating disorder people, they're locked up because of their addiction, but that modicum of control, I've got this, and so I'm grateful. I'm grateful that there's people in my community, my 12-step community, my recovery community, that it can help, that can be my peers, that can be my reminders of, like, we're not alone. There's a path through this. And now I got some recovery behind me. I can be one of those people that's like going, come with me, there's a different way to live, and it's worth, having to put in a little hard work, to do things differently. But I love what you're talking about is soul change, because just checking off the boxes and going like, I'm going to a 15-minute therapy session once a week. So, I've got this. No, no, it really takes a lot more. And it takes building that community and learning to do things differently, including on the inside. So
Yeah. And
we've
I
got,
think
yeah,
you're
go
going
ahead.
in the right direction when you feel that resistance and that rebelliousness of like, hell no, I'm not
Yeah.
doing that. That sounds ridiculous.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh no, that means probably that you're going in the right direction.
Yeah,
So
because your
making
addict is going, hell no, don't do that. Because,
yeah.
like, no, I wanna preserve that ability to do, what I want to
Mhm.
do, me, me,
Yeah.
me, 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 me. Okay, so we've got some questions. I've recently had to move back home because I lost my job during COVID. After a few weeks, I've noticed that I'm needing to stay here as my mom is in her mid 70s and her mobility and pain are getting debilitating. I lived here to help with my father's last year battling non-alcoholic cirrhosis. So I've been home for a similar reason. However, I also relapsed and have spent the last several months struggling in my substance abuse and love sex addiction. Mom and I are in a good place, but naturally I tend to feel like I'm back in high school again. What would you recommend for exercises we can try to work on to reestablish a good relationship and also help us in the transition from mom being caretaker to me, the problem child, growing into the caretaker? Can we do it? Yes, you can. You're asking. This is awesome. We do
Yeah.
family therapy with my CSAT, but since these boundaries have been so unhealthy, can we get to a healthy relationship living under the same roof? I'm going, yes. And wow, what a, like what a gift that you have this time to repair some relationship
Right.
issues that are, that have been problematic. So I'm going to shut up and let Kristen answer this, but
Yeah.
yes.
I'm searching one of my most popular videos is on boundaries. So I have that in the archives. And I also for free, I have on my website, which I think you can see in the notes of my this is available. This is a boundaries chart. And this is what I think is a really great, I used to kind of call it the Bible for how to connect with other people. When I was learning how to do healthy boundaries, because I realized I was on the unhealthy side quite frequently, that I would just review it every day. And I'd look and say, okay, did mom and I stay on the healthier side of the boundaries? Did we say yes when we want to say, when we really could say yes, and say no when it just wasn't suiting us? Do we take responsibility for our side, our happiness? The other thing that is kind of tied into boundaries is the topic that I think I covered 2 webinars ago, which was dependency needs, right? You are in, even though it's not a romantic partner, you're in a current relationship with another person. It's your mom, and she has needs, you have needs. There can't be mind reading going on, and there has to be kind of boundary setting of, this is kind of what I need in order to feel safe. I need to be able to tap out. I need, even though you might need my help in this way or that way, I still need to have room to go to meetings or to go to online things. I need my level of privacy, etc. But and then allow her the space of making clear in her world what she needs from you, to feel safe, and what she's going to do to take responsibility for her side and keep her side of the street clean. So living with a family member again, feeling like you're a high school kid, setting boundaries and being very explicitly clear about what each of you need to kind of maintain your own worlds and your own keeping your side of the street clean, has to be a lot of clear discussions.
I was thinking that too. It's communication, like all of those things you're talking about, but even sharing, mom, I'm grateful that I can be here for you.
Right.
Like you were there for me. I'm grateful I can be there for you. Setting the tone as an adult. You're two adults. You're not the little kid or the naughty little kid or whatever the perception of,
Right.
the power differential. So, but
Right.
but and I hear that you were there with your dad too, so I know all of those are really challenging. But I'm what a meaningful thing that you were able to be there. You weren't acting out in your addiction and just missing out on everything. You were showing up.
Yeah.
So yay.
And pay attention to your traits and talents. So meaning, pay attention to what your go-to behaviors were growing up in that household and how they might be resurfacing. So I'd be making it up because I don't know your story, but it's just, if it was to be the unemotional, unneedy, servicing someone else's need and not expressing your own needs, and that's kind of how you made the family system work back then, make sure that that's not what position and default state you're taking now. I mean, we really are creatures of habit and adapting into our environment. So make sure you push back against that urge to go back to your old default state of behaving and engaging the same way you did as a high schooler. And you're more mature and you know much more now, and you need to show up very differently from then.
Yes. Okay, next question. Thanks, Chris. And I just left Seeking Integrity Los Angeles, our treatment program, on Saturday. And I had to face the fact that my 27 months of sobriety were based on white knuckle traits and talents of never giving up or admitting failure. The classic dry drunk, control freak living in denial. All it took was 10-second video to start the snowball rolling that led to my relapse. I surrendered to a 2-week immersion that has changed my soul. Oh, that's awesome. To that of a vulnerable, meticulously honest, real man who is powerless to control my addiction without the power of others and our shared faith in recovery. I had to give up, to quit, to admit defeat in order to become something better, something and someone better. I only made it through the power of fellowship, raw transparency, emotional vulnerability, and the help and advice of the best professionals in the country. Well, thank you for all of that. But that, yeah, when I was going off to treatment, my dad wrote me a note, and I still have it, and it said, "You're a strong person." I am a strong-willed person. I am a strong person, and
We're both.
I read this after I arrived, and and I was like, "Dad, you don't understand. Like, this has kicked my butt, and I don't know what to do." And I think in that surrender and in that willingness, like, then I was ready to get help and to listen to other people. And they told me this can be different. There is a different way. And I believe them. And for those of you that are just new to this journey, try not to be terrified of the raw transparency and
Yes.
emotional vulnerability. It is challenging, but that's why we need people to do that. But listen to the rest of that, where this transformation of, like, I was hanging on white knuckle, and all the energy of just like, I'm just not going to do that. And then you do, and to be on a different path. That's a very powerful message.
Yeah, when I was going through my personal crisis, there was a much older psychiatrist that I had to work with all the time. So we had to do meetings together. And so I kind of share with him what was going on in life. I mean, he was 70 or something. So I really was seeking out wisdom and stability in a world that I was kind of grasping at straws everywhere. And so he was talking about how he is the same person in every environment, no matter what. So he is the same guy who shows up with his clients, who shows up with colleagues, who shows up with his wife and other things. And I remember when he was telling me that, I was like, that sounds horrible. I mean, I have a really great skill set. In about 1.3 seconds, I can measure up my audience
Yeah.
and chameleonize myself to be everything that I think you want me to be so I can win my cash and prizes.
Mhm.
And the idea that you show up as this kind of raw, because there's like kind of a crudeness to this. It is kind of like unapologetic, this is who I am. And I'm like, and you're still successful, like you still run these businesses, you show up to these clients this way and colleagues that way, like you don't suddenly kiss people's asses and try to be what you think that they want you to be. That blew my mind. It really did. And that showed where I was. Like I felt like I would be denying everything that I'd learned to be up
Mm.
until that point in my life. Like what did I have if not that skill, without if not that trait and talent? The idea to just show up as me, who currently, by the way, was a pretty hot mess, like that just scared the living daylights out of me. But I get it now, obviously retrospectively. So yeah, it sounds absurd when you first hear it. It sounds ridiculous that why would you do that? But it is the only way to get through these kind of things.
And I tear up all the time on these things, but one of the things I most value about you, Kristen, is your willingness to show up as who you are and be vulnerable and be raw. So mission accomplished. You've learned, from the 70-year-old hot mess that he was just being out there. You learned. You were willing to ask questions and get advice and learn. So yay. And here you are helping other people. So awesome. Okay. I have no access to in-person groups and have no idea what to do for myself. I do online drop-ins, but don't consider it a good forum for building relationships with other betrayed partners. Do you have any suggestions on work I can do? I've been terribly depressed and lonely, and I'm actually home in bed today. Oh, I'm so sorry,
Mm.
but I'm glad you're here. And
Yeah.
yes, we do. So Kristen does a group for betrayed. When are you doing the next one?
I just I signed it's starting February 22nd, but it's full
Okay,
because
so
that's
she'll
what's
start
happening.
another
But
one.
I will. I'm also there's a lot, and also can you chime into person that just wrote, are you a betrayed partner and addict, right? Because there's different
This is a
resources.
betrayed partner.
Oh,
Um, how
okay.
did how did I think that? No, yeah, it says relationships with other betrayed partners. So this is a
Okay, yeah,
betrayed
you're right.
partner.
Sorry.
That's
The
okay.
other thing I'm trying to come up with as a backup or a bridge in between when these moderated things are opened up is I'm trying to create like a really structuralized, keep the group small at 10, create like discussion points and exercises to do to talk in the group, but still
Oh,
allow these betrayed partners to go into a weekly hour and a half group, and again have it structuralized so it doesn't get out of control, so there's not like heavy unraveling. um, the ideal situation is like what you're saying is you want in-person groups. That's not very possible these days. You want more interactive groups or with run by therapists or expert in that field. I don't know one person in my field right now that's not completely overwhelmed. So I'm acknowledging that's a problem right now. But a backup plan that I'm trying to create is like kind of the next best thing. Something created by a person trained in the field. So have you do exercises and answer discussions that are very specific, but and keep the group small and safe, but let them still meet in a more interactive way. So some of the people that I have when they do these breakout groups, they really love the breakout groups. I'm not there in the breakout groups, and that's when they share stories about their families and their friends and what's going on, more details about their story. So it can happen. It's not the most ideal scenario. I know that, but we're just trying to make lemonade out of lemons right now.
Well, and with the drop-in groups, my experience is there's usually someone in the group that you kind of go, I resonate with that person, and
Right.
and reaching out to see if you can, connect with that one person, maybe, another option. And Kristen is one person. I do have a couple of other people that I know are doing codependent, therapy groups and things like that too. So, and those groups tend to get close. So you can always email me, Tammy, TAMI at seekingintegrity.com, and be specific, for what you're looking for, and where you're located, because they have to work within their state licensure, as far as therapy goes. But there are resources, and it does feel like, there are less, but there's still, and even, so I hear that you're depressed. I can't help but wonder if you did the Sophia Caudle grief group on intherooms.com. That's another free group. But some of those resources, it feels like, you're experiencing some of that. If you have been struggling really with depression, it may be that you need to get a medical professional
Mhm.
to take a look at that depression. That you may need some medication, even short term. So make sure my point is, I'm not a medical professional. My point is, make sure you're getting the help and resources that you need. Depression, can be very real and debilitating, and just getting up to a, kind of foundation where you feel like you can move forward in a different way. You are not alone. It feels like you are alone, but you're
Mhm.
here, and there's lots of other people that are, trudging the path as well. So,
Yeah.
other
You can go
questions?
to my email to be added to the next events I have opened up. So if you join my mailing list, I don't send a bunch of stuff. We're talking like one email a month. So
Other questions, comments? We have time. So, oh, I'll tell you while we're on this, I mean, I'll put this in the chat too. So, Kristen is going to be on Super Saturday Recovery Summit on February 20th, talking about Life Anonymous. So www.intherooms.com. I'm putting it in the chat. You can join that on February 20th. Oh, somebody put something in the chat. So, um, I have also had some amazing new support by accepting an invitation to be in a small group chat with a couple of guys that are in my area of the country. The chats are supportive and informative. For example, one of the guys mentioned a group that was happening last night. I decided to go, and it was almost every guy in my chat was present. I was able to put a face to the name. The first hour was just socializing. Oh, that's great. And getting to know each other. I feel so connected. See, so that I mean, there are opportunities. So I think it takes just being willing, and and somebody's going to be a hub person, and they're going to know this person and tell you about this group. Just try. If you go to a group and it isn't a fit, try a couple times, because sometimes the group is, uh, like I go to my home group, 12-step meeting, and there are days that if that was the only meeting I'd ever gone to of them, I wouldn't come back. But
right.
but I know that overall it's really good. So we are finding too, for the men's, we don't have for partners, but for the men's, sex and porn addiction 101, we've got another level one starting in March. But the guys are connecting with that. They're going through level two. There's a level three now because they asked for it. So we don't have the partner stuff, and I wish we do, but I try to make sure that I'm pointing people towards your information and a couple other resources, Kristen. But we're trying to have some of those. We have a couples workshop online. We used to offer them in person. Can't do that with COVID. Can't have four couples sitting in a room together. So
Right.
so we created an online offering, and the next one will start in April. So again, support for couples. So we're trying to, all of us, I think, to navigate in a very different world,
We are
to
all
make
ebbing and flowing
connected.
right now, trying
Hmm.
to we hear you. You're not the only one, and I'm trying to figure out options. I really am.
Yes. Yeah. And Kristen's right. Like there are a lot. I mean, I get a lot of emails going like, all of the therapists you recommended are full, and I'm like, yeah. I mean, the good news is people are
Sorry.
reaching out for support. That's great. The bad news is, the therapists are, inundated with, with clients. So, but there are qualified resources. So don't dismay. Keep we'll keep, giving you options. So, other questions? So, well, Hang on, my phone is gonna ring. Um, well, I guess if you don't have any other questions. Oh, now we have a question. That's what usually happens. Kristen, can you speak more about, oh, this is good, how relational trauma wounds can be fixed within the relationship? I've been married for 30 years and felt so secure and happy in the relationship until D-Day. We
Mm.
want to stay married, but I don't trust and scared he will hurt me. You don't mention when D-Day was. Can you, I mean, if that was recent and after 30 years, your world is rocked. Can you chime in and let us know, like how long ago D-Day was, please? August of 18. Okay. So, all right, that's
It's
helpful
been a
to know.
couple of
Thank you.
years. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I was just doing some trainings on shame resiliency and using empathy and compassion to get through shame. So the idea is that, yes, these relational traumas, these wounds. So I loved you. I thought you were keeping my best interest in mind. I thought we were moving down the same path. I thought we were being honest with each other. And I it all went backward. It all went upside down. That's not what was happening. And so, because the wound came from a relationship, from the idea that I made myself vulnerable to you, the idea that you're supposed to be able to trust someone in order to engage in intimacy and healthy intimacy with someone. You can't have intimacy with someone without safety and trust. So these kind of wounds that were created by that breaking by of trust, by the betrayal, can usually only be repaired within a relationship
Mhm.
dynamic. They're actually, I mean, literally, if you read Bessel van der Kolk, your brain gets wired. Your brain gets wired to be hyper vigilant, to tense up around these people. And the only way that your brain can be rewired is through vulnerable, safe, intimate connection with others. It may not be your betraying partner, your partner who's in recovery, because they might not right now be able to practice the true level of empathy and compassion and honesty and predictability that your body needs in order to rewire itself to say, like, okay, now the new input is from this person that he means what he says. He's in recovery, he's a different person, he has a better context of understanding why he acted out, and he's taking these steps to no longer do those behaviors anymore. And at the same time, he can hold space, he can be not defensive and hold space for me to unravel, to say, why wasn't I enough? Why did you do this to me? I'm getting really triggered by this song that I just heard, or this thing that just popped up on my calendar. And he can just focus in on you and practice empathy and compassion in engaging with you, to help you repair that wound and rewire your brain. So a partner might not be ready to do that, but you can make incremental repairs by maybe having almost like surrogate connections with other people. But they're not really surrogacies, because you need friendship, you need relationships with children, family, loved ones, colleagues, professionals. So those are going to be a part of your life anyway. So maybe you can have a connection with a therapist, or, like I said, a support group, or people in your support group, or a group of friends, and reaching out to those people to create that new wiring in your head that's like, yes, right now that particular person isn't safe, but I don't have to wide swath overgeneralize and say every human's unsafe. Every human doesn't say what they mean. Every human betrays me. And that's kind of a quick summary about how relational trauma can slowly be healed, whether it's in the relationship or outside that relationship with other people or even animals. I mean, like
Mhm.
equine therapy with horses, pets, things like that. Whatever feels safest to you initially, go for that. But your brain can't be rewired to say, okay, some people can be healthy. Loving another person isn't dumb. Like, these are the ways that I can rewire my brain to believe that again. So I hope that's helpful. I did do a webinar a long time ago on healing shame with empathy and compassion. And I kind of gave skills and tools on what to do and what not to do when you're practicing empathy and compassion to get out of these relational trauma experiences. So you might want to check that out and share that with your partner.
And if he hasn't read Out of the Doghouse, I would encourage him to read Out of the Doghouse, because that's how he can start rebuilding trust with you. He can start being trustworthy. So, and I know D-Day was in 2018, and I hope he's on a recovery path. If he hasn't been, then higher levels of help are required in order to, get things going in a different direction. So, okay, next question. What is the difference between your book and the teachings of Al-Anon?
So in a nutshell, there's some similarities in that understanding and respecting that you're powerless to this external world. Al-Anon focuses in on the fact that you're powerless to the choices of your addict partner. Whereas Life Anonymous, well, first of all, Life Anonymous is written by both an addict, so someone who is in decades of recovery from drug and sex addiction, and he shares his story of recovery and the process, coupled with mine, who is kind of more, I wasn't in a relationship with an addict, so it's not Al-Anon focused. I don't identify as having a specific addiction, but in seasons of my life, things became unmanageable, and I found myself powerless and needing to seek out help. And I used the 12-step concepts because that's what resonated with me the most. I wasn't in a season where I felt comfortable with leaning into my former religious practices. And so I kind of picked up and drew from the 12-step concepts, watching clients, and I did attend some meetings here and there. Um, and shame resiliency practices and kind of those relational trauma healing processes, et cetera. So that's how it's different. It's also different because it's a therapeutic based, it's a workbook. It's got a lot of like exercises, charts, question and answers, circle plan, things like that, that kind of get deeper, give you actual exercises to do to kind of walk through each of these steps.
Okay, so the next question is, I'm a betrayed partner, multiple discovery since 2015. Husband has only recently started to get it and is finally working with a qualified therapist. He is a porn addict and chronic objectifier. I believe he is sober now. My question is in regards to who he shows the world that he is. I have never been able to tell what he is feeling, experiencing, etc., as it is always just shown what he wants to show. As a partner, how do I start to grow my own confidence in us while standing beside him when I still have no idea who he is or what he's experiencing? He has for years blamed me for his acting out. I hate that, although he no longer does that, but that's good. But I have been judged and criticized by him for decades as he acted out behind my back. He admits to only now just starting to find out who he really is at the core of himself. I'm tired of having to ask all the time who he is and what he's feeling and experiencing. It's exhausting. Any suggestions? Out of the Doghouse. Read Out of the Doghouse. There's a podcast on it too, but have him read Out of the Doghouse for starters. But Kristin,
Right. Well, I mean, because why Out of the Doghouse is great is because
yes.
it gives a really clear understanding to the acting out partner what his or her betrayed partner is going through. So it gives context. I mean, don't forget, addiction is all about compartmentalizing. I only want to do life like this. So he's been extremely invested in seeing things from this perspective. So if things like Out of the Doghouse or doing a disclosure or reading an impact letter written by you, will what that is that slowly kind of forcing him to expand his horizons to see how his behaviors did actually harm you. I mean, truly addicts believe initially, what, this is my life, it's my issue, it's my what they don't know doesn't hurt them. They don't realize how traumatizing gaslighting is, to continuously deny someone their reality and lying to their face, blaming them for a problem that they've had for a long time out of their own shame. Like they can't literally wrap their brain around why that stuff is so traumatizing to a betrayed partner. So all those resources are really about educating them about why these things caused you to behave in certain ways and how it impacted you and what it's done in your life. So really what we're doing is we're expanding the addict's capacity to understand someone else's story, having compassion for their situation, and how to respond appropriately to it.
And one of the things, like I understand how frustrating it is, but
Yeah.
this is a whole new skill set for him. You identify that he never shows anybody who he is. He's trying to figure out who he is himself. So, it's one of those where, you're at the college level. You could write the dissertation on all of this because you've got those skills. You've been doing it forever, and he's at kindergarten. He's at the very beginning of like trying to figure all this out. So can he get there? Yes. Is it going to be a process? Yes. I'm glad he's working with a qualified therapist. Just, I mean, it as long as he continues to move forward, and you do share, he stopped doing this, he stopped blaming you. Great. I mean, you are actually seeing some progress, which is, a very positive thing. But I do get the frustration of like, oh my gosh, is he ever going to grow up? Is he ever going to get to college? He
Yeah.
can.
Yeah.
Uh,
It reminds me of Scott writes a story in this book about how when he first started going to meetings for his drug and sex addiction issues, that the majority of the initial meetings were all about him complaining about issues with his parents, kind of blaming other people, talking about how like rough his childhood was. And then he said there was like this jolt moment in his life when some guy in the meeting was like, you ever considered that you're not exactly what they signed up for? And he said it was this kind of shaking moment where he was like, he was spending so much time complaining about other people, all these circumstances that justified his behavior and why he's such a sad story. And don't get me wrong, there's a time and season to acknowledge that we've been victimized or traumatized. But being in a group of a bunch of men that know your pattern, can call you out on your stuff, that's the beautiful thing about these 12-step communities. So that's also kind of what I'm saying to you is just start expanding that mind pretty quickly when you're around a bunch of old timers that are like, oh yeah, it's your wife's fault, that's why you decided to pick up the phone and call a prostitute. Oh, tell me about that. And they kind of just, they know that story, they've been there, they've done that, they've heard the rationalizations, and they are not quite as graceful and eloquent about delivering those messages to the addict in those original days.
well, some people email. Lots of you email me, and I'm happy to share. But sometimes, like sometimes something catches me, and like and at the end I'll go, I'm sure that isn't what you wanted to hear, but it's like, it's not all about all this other stuff and everything else and how unfair life is. It's like you've got a choice. You've got a problem. And it will never get better if you don't do something different. So we have one more question. How does a betrayed partner deal with the shame of staying? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm in a good group, but no one seems to address this. I know it's not my fault. You're right. And I can't help it, but feel judged by the world. I know I've judged myself.
I think one of the most popular podcasts that I've done, because I've done a couple with Rob, is like, No, You're Not Crazy for Staying. And he and I kind of discuss our clinical experiences with working with these betrayed partners about, well, of course you'd hang out to see. I have clients right now that it's like the people, the the acting out partner isn't doing everything that they need to do, but doing just enough to kind of keep the person around. And there's lots of reasons for that. And yes, will someone who's never dealt with addiction or never dealt with this kind of stuff have any ability to be empathetic or compassionate? Probably not, which is why you have to put yourself around a bunch of people that understand this kind of stuff. But we talk all the time. It's, you have history. When they're not acting out, there's things about him or her that you love. Um, there's maybe children involved, there's a life and memories, and not all bad memories. And then there's also the situation where there's a little parts of them, you get these little glimmers of, wow, how beautiful could this be if this person really lived a life of recovery. I mean, I loved him when, now I realize retrospectively, they were always doing this act, living this double life, and I thought this was great, but what about here? What if he or she cleans this up, starts being truthful, I get to find out who this person really is. I mean, there's a number of reasons why people stay. Um, and I think, if it's not being addressed, feel free to talk about it. Does anyone else feel dumb for staying? What's going on in your head? The shame voices, that's kind of what I call it.
Yeah, which, as my friend Kristin Snowden says, shame is a useless emotion. So, what I really hear is I've judged myself. So I can't help but wonder if everything is colored with I'm
Right.
an idiot for staying. No, you're not. You love a broken person. So Dr. Rob talks about that in Prodependence. It's like there isn't shame in that. You deserve support. And how do you do that? But all the reasons Kristen just talked about is like, yeah, there's a lot of good. I hear all the time from partners, it's like, 90% or 95% of our relationship is good, but the lying and the betrayal is like, devastating. But, if he or she can, be different, then all of that other stuff, was worth staying for. And other people can't, and people who really love you, like your mom, dad, family, whatever, are going to go, get rid of the bomb, all
Right.
of that. Because they love you and they want you to be safe and happy and all that kind of stuff. And so they don't understand. So working with other partners and your therapist to you get the support that you need without blaming you for staying, that can be really helpful. But I agree with Kristen, it's fair. Like, there's a betrayed partner group today to say, I really want to talk about, I feel shameful about, staying. Other people feel the same way, unfortunately. So anyway, we're done. Thank you all for joining. Thank you, Kristen. We'll see you in March, and then we'll have completed a year in our new world. So it's all good. It's all good. There's hope, right? There's hope.
There's hope. Thank you,
That's
everyone. I saw someone too ask about webinars. There's everything's on sexandrelationshiphealing.com, but I also have my own YouTube channel where a lot of these are like edited versions. I edit out a
yes,
lot of the space and stuff like that. So Kristin Snowden on YouTube, you'll be able to see most of these as well.
yes. And I'm sure there's a link off your website too for
Yeah,
your
sure.
YouTube.
Yes,
If
there
there
is.
isn't, she's gonna put
There
one
is,
on.
there
So
is. It's
yeah,
getting
yeah, yeah,
revamped though, so it's all
yeah.
crazy right now.
All good.
So
Okay. All right. Thanks, everybody.
thank you, everyone. Thanks for joining.
Bye.